when my wife texted, "Moving away with my new man. Good luck paying the mortgage." I just smiled and replied, "Thanks for the heads up." She had no idea I'd already frozen everything. But I wasn't prepared for what she'd do next. The lies got darker. The betrayals got deeper. My name is Russell Patterson. I'm 48 years old. And until 3 months ago, I thought I had a pretty solid life. Director of procurement at a mid-sized distribution company, decent salary, nice house in the suburbs of Charlotte, North Carolina. My wife Stephanie and I raised our son Brandon together. He's 23 now, finishing his master's degree in Boston. Smart kid. Got his mother's looks and, I hope, my sense of responsibility. I was in the garage that Tuesday afternoon, organizing the storage shelves I've been meaning to tackle for months. Stephanie had been distant for weeks, and I figured giving her space was the smart move. The buzz of my phone cut through the silence. I wiped the dust off my hands and pulled it from my pocket. The message was from Stephanie. "Moving away with my new man. Good luck paying the mortgage on your own." I stood there, shelf bracket in one hand, phone in the other, reading those words 3 times. No explanation. No apology. Just a middle finger wrapped in a text message. 23 years together, 19 of them married. And this was how she chose to end it. I wasn't shocked. That's the thing that surprised me most. I wasn't even angry. I felt something else entirely. Relief. Because for the past 3 months, I'd known something was wrong. The credit card statements with charges at hotels I'd never stayed at. The new phone she kept face down on every surface. The Thursday evening yoga classes that somehow never made her more flexible or relaxed. I'd started documenting everything 8 weeks ago. Hired a private investigator named Jack Monroe, former cop, good reputation. He'd given me photos, timestamps, location data. Stephanie had been seeing someone. Multiple someones, actually, but I never confronted her. I just prepared. 2 weeks ago, I quietly refinanced the house solely in my name. We'd done a previous refi 5 years back, and her signature on those documents gave me the legal right to do it alone. Our attorney confirmed it. The mortgage was now my responsibility, and my asset. I'd also opened a new bank account, redirected my paycheck, and moved 70% of our savings into a secured account under my mother's maiden name as trustee. The joint account Stephanie had access to, I left exactly $1,200 in it. Enough to look normal, not enough to run away with. I typed my response with steady fingers. "Thanks for the heads up. I'm in it." She just made everything easier. No more pretending. No more wondering when she'd finally admit it. She'd walked out the door voluntarily, in writing, with witnesses in the form of text message metadata. I set my phone down on the workbench and went back to organizing the shelves. About 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Then again. Then 3 more times in rapid succession. I didn't pick it up. I knew what was happening. Stephanie had just tried to use her debit card, probably for gas or food, and it had been declined. She'd checked the banking app and seen the balance. $1,200, where there should have been $43,000. The call started after that. I let every single one go to voicemail. By the time the sun set, I'd cleaned the entire garage, reorganized my tools, and even swept the floor. The house felt different. Lighter. Like something heavy had been lifted off the walls. I wasn't the man she left behind anymore. I was the man she'd created, and she had no idea what that meant yet. The voicemail started piling up around 7 that evening. I was grilling chicken on the back deck, enjoying the quiet, when my phone lit up for the 15th time. I let it ring. There was something peaceful about knowing exactly what was happening without having to participate in the chaos. Stephanie was spiraling. Good. Around 9. I finally opened my laptop and pulled up the folder I'd been building for the past 2 months. Jack Monroe, the PI, had been worth every dollar of the $6,000 I'd paid him. The man was thorough. Timestamps, photos, video clips, license plate numbers. He'd even tracked her phone's GPS data, completely legal since it was on our family plan under my name. The first file was dated 6 weeks ago. Stephanie entering the Marriott downtown at 2:15 on a Thursday afternoon. She told me she was meeting her book club. The photo showed her walking in with a guy, maybe 26 years old. Tall, athletic build, dark hair styled like he spent an hour on it every morning. He had his hand on the small of her back. Tanner Reed. Jack had identified him within a day. Personal trainer at Elite Fitness, the gym Stephanie joined 4 months ago. The kid was 26, drove a leased BMW, and had an Instagram full of shirtless photos and motivational quotes about grinding and hustling. Real deep thinker. But Tanner wasn't the interesting one. The second folder made my jaw tighten. Stephanie having dinner at the Capitol Grill with a man in his late 50s. Distinguished-looking, expensive suit, the kind of confidence that comes from decades of power. Jack's notes identified him as Judge Philip Harrington, retired federal judge, still connected to half the legal community in Charlotte. Married, 3 grown kids, estate worth at least $8 million. There were 6 separate meetings documented between Stephanie and the judge. Dinners, a weekend trip to Asheville, an afternoon at a gallery opening. They weren't hiding it well, but they weren't exactly careless either. This wasn't some impulsive fling. This was calculated. And here's the part that made my blood run cold. 3 weeks ago, Stephanie had opened a new credit card. In my name. Jack found the application. She'd forged my signature, used my social security number, and racked up nearly $18,000 in charges. Hotels, jewelry, cash advances. She was building a nest egg, preparing to leave, and stealing from me to do it. I saved everything to 3 separate flash drives. One for me, one for my attorney, one for insurance. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from Brandon, my son. Dad, Mom's calling me freaking out. Says you locked her out of everything. What's going on? I stared at that message for a long moment. Brandon didn't know. Stephanie had been careful to keep her affairs hidden from him, playing the role of devoted mother whenever he called or visited. Now she was going to twist this, make me the villain, turn our son against me before he even knew the truth. I typed back carefully. It's complicated. I'll explain everything soon. Don't believe everything you hear right now. His response came fast. She says you're being controlling and vindictive. That's not like you. I set the phone down. I wasn't going to fight this battle over text. Brandon deserved the truth, but he deserved it in person, with evidence, not in a panic-driven narrative from his mother. By midnight, the calls had stopped. I figured Stephanie had either found a place to stay or realized I wasn't going to answer. I poured myself a scotch, sat in the living room, and looked around at the house we'd built together. 19 years of marriage. 19 years of believing we were a team. And she'd burned it down for a 26-year-old gym rat and a retired judge with money. The thing about betrayal is that once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. Every memory gets rewritten. Every kind word she'd said over the past year now sounded hollow. Every smile felt like a mask. But I wasn't going to wallow. I was going to finish this the right way. Methodically. Legally. Completely. Tomorrow, I'd call my attorney and start the divorce proceedings. I'd file a police report about the fraudulent credit card. And I'd sit down with Brandon and show him exactly who his mother had become. Stephanie thought she was moving towards something better. She had no idea she was walking into a trap of her own making. She showed up at 7:30 the next morning. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard her car pull into the driveway. Not the Mercedes she usually drove. A silver Corolla. Borrowed, probably. Or rented with whatever cash she had left. I didn't move toward the door. Just stood there by the coffee maker waiting. The knock came hard and fast. Entitled. Like she still thought this was her house. I opened the door slowly. Stephanie stood on the porch wearing yesterday's clothes. Mascara smudged under her eyes. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked like she'd slept in a car. Maybe she had. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me into the house without waiting for an invitation. I let her. Closed the door behind her and leaned against it, arms crossed. You can't just cut me off, Russell, Stephanie said, spinning to face me. Her voice was sharp, but there was desperation underneath it. That's illegal. That's financial abuse. I almost laughed. Financial abuse. That's what you're going with. I'm serious, she said. I talked to someone. You can't lock me out of our money. I have rights. You talked to someone, I repeated slowly. Was it Tanner? Or was it Judge Harrington? Her face went white. Just for a second, but I caught it. The flicker of panic. I don't know what you're talking about, she said. I walked past her into the living room, picked up my laptop from the coffee table, and opened it. Pulled up the photo folder. Turned the screen toward her. This is you and Tanner Reed at the Marriott. 2:15 p.m., 6 weeks ago. You told me you were at book club. She stared at the photo. Her mouth opened, then closed. I clicked to the next image. This is you and Judge Philip Harrington at the Capitol Grill. You told me you were having dinner with your sister. Russell. I'm not done. I said, my voice flat and cold. I clicked through 3 more photos. Each one worse than the last. I've got 2 months of documentation. photos, GPS data, credit card statements. And here's my favorite. I pulled up the fraudulent credit card application. Her signature, forged but recognizable. $18,000 in charges. You open a credit card in my name, I said. Without my knowledge. Without my permission. That's identity theft, Stephanie. That's a felony. She took a step back, shaking her head. I was gonna pay it back. I just needed. You needed what? Money to run away with your boyfriend? 2 boyfriends, actually. Or was the judge funding the whole thing? Her face twisted. Not with guilt. With anger. Like I was the one who'd done something wrong. You've been spying on me, she hissed. That's sick, Russell. That's controlling. No, I said quietly. What's sick is cheating on your husband for months, stealing from him, and then trying to gaslight him when you get caught. She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. Here's how this is going to work, I said. You're going to leave. You're going to go stay wherever you've been staying, and you're going to wait for the divorce papers. If you contact me again, if you try to come back here, if you go anywhere near our finances, I'm filing a police report for the credit card fraud. Do you understand? You can't do this, she said, but her voice wavered. I already did. For a long moment, we just stood there. Then she grabbed her purse from where she'd dropped it on the floor and walked toward the door. She stopped with her hand on the handle. Brandon's going to hate you for this. Brandon's going to know the truth, I said. That's the difference between you and me. I don't lie to our son. She left without another word. I watched through the window as she got into the Corolla and drove away. My phone buzzed. A text from Jack Monroe, the PI. Judge Harrington just put his house up for sale. Quiet listing. Family doesn't know yet. I read it twice. Then I forwarded it to my attorney. The judge was getting nervous. Good. He should be. Brandon called that afternoon. I was in my office reviewing procurement contracts when his name lit up my screen. I'd been expecting this call, dreading it, but knowing it had to happen. Hey, Dad, he said. His voice was tight, careful. Hey, son. Mom's been calling me nonstop, Brandon said. She's saying some pretty wild stuff. I need to hear your side. I set down my pen. What did she tell you? That you locked her out of everything. Froze her cards. Kicked her out of the house. She says you're being vindictive because she asked for space. Space. There was that word again. Brandon, I said slowly, your mother didn't ask for space. She sent me a text message saying she was leaving me for another man. Then she tried to use our joint account to fund her exit, and I stopped her. Silence on the other end. Another man? Brandon finally said. 2, actually. I pulled up the photos on my laptop. I'm going to email you something. I need you to look at it before we continue this conversation. Dad, I don't know if I want to. You need to see it, I said firmly. Your mother is building a narrative, and it's not based in reality. I'm not asking you to take my side. I'm asking you to look at the facts. I heard him exhale. Okay, send it. I attached 3 photos. Nothing explicit, but clear enough. Stephanie with Tanner. Stephanie with the judge. The credit card application with her forged signature. 2 minutes later, Brandon called back. Jesus Christ, he said. His voice sounded hollow. How long has this been going on? Months. Maybe longer. I didn't find out until recently. And you didn't tell me? I wanted to handle it quietly, I said. I didn't want to drag you into it until I had to. Brandon was quiet for a long time. She's been lying to me. All those times she called, complaining about you, saying you were distant, saying you didn't appreciate her. She was setting me up. She was protecting herself, I said, building sympathy before the truth came out. That's manipulative. Yes, it is. Another long pause. Then Brandon said, What do you need from me? That question hit me harder than I expected. Not what should I believe, not whose side am I on. What do you need from me? I need you to know the truth, I said. I need you to understand that I didn't do this to hurt her. I did it to protect myself. And I need you to be prepared, because this is going to get uglier before it gets better. She's going to fight this, isn't she? Brandon asked. She already is. What about the judge? Does his family know? Not yet, but they will. Brandon let out a bitter laugh. Man, she really torched everything, didn't she? She made her choices, I said. Now she has to live with them. We talked for another 20 minutes. I walked him through the timeline, answered his questions, listened when he needed to vent. By the end of the call, I could hear the shift in his voice. He wasn't angry at me anymore. He was angry at what had been done to our family. I love you, Dad, Brandon said before hanging up. I love you too, son. After the call ended, I sat in my office for a long time, staring at nothing. I'd just shown my son proof that his mother was a liar and a cheat. That wasn't something you bounce back from easily. But it was necessary. Because the alternative was letting Stephanie control the narrative, letting her paint me as the villain while she played the victim. I wasn't going to let that happen. My phone buzzed again. This time, an email from my attorney. Divorce papers ready. Filed electronically this morning. She'll be served by end of day. I typed back a single word. Good. The wheels were in motion now. No turning back. 3 days after Stephanie was served, the phone call started. Not from her. From other people. Her sister Angela called first, voice dripping with contempt. "You're a monster, Russell," she said without even saying hello. "Stephanie told me everything. How you've been controlling her, isolating her, making her feel worthless." I was in a meeting when the call came through. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway. "Did she tell you about Tanner Reed?" I asked calmly. Silence on the other end. "Or Judge Philip Harrington. Did she mention him?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Angela said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. "I'm going to email you the same files I sent Brandon," I said. "Look at them. Then call me back if you still think I'm a monster." I hung up before she could respond. An hour later, her sister called back. This time, she was crying. "I didn't know," Angela said. "Russell, I swear I didn't know." "I know you didn't. She lied to all of us. She's been posting on Facebook, making herself look like the victim. Everyone believes her." "Not for long," I said. That afternoon, Jack Monroe called with an update that changed everything. "I found something," Jack said. "Big. You're going to want to sit down." I was already sitting in my office, but I straightened in my chair. "What is it? Remember those credit card charges? The 18 grand she racked up in your name?" "Yeah. Turns out that's just the tip." I pulled some records. Stephanie's been moving money for 6 months. Small amounts at first, then larger. She's got an offshore account. Cayman Islands. There's over $200,000 in it. My blood went cold. 200,000, give or take. She's been skimming from your joint savings, selling jewelry, even took a second mortgage on the house without telling you. She had your signature on file from the last refi, and she used it. "That's fraud," I said. "That's felony fraud," Jack corrected. "I've already forwarded everything to your attorney. She's looking at serious prison time if the DA decides to prosecute." I leaned back in my chair, trying to process it. Stephanie hadn't just cheated. She'd been systematically robbing me blind for half a year, planning her escape, building a nest egg in a place I'd never find it. "There's more," Jack said. "The judge, Harrington, he's been under investigation by the state bar for ethics violations. Nothing proven yet, but there are complaints. Looks like he's been using his connections to influence cases even after retirement. If his affair with Stephanie becomes public, it's going to blow up his whole world." "Good," I said. "Your ex-wife picked the wrong guy to run off with," Jack said. "He's got too much to lose. My bet. He cuts her loose the second this gets messy." After I hung up with Jack, I forwarded everything to my attorney and copied Brandon. Then I did something I'd been avoiding. I opened Facebook. Stephanie had been busy. 3 posts in the last 2 days, all carefully worded to make her sound like a victim of emotional abuse. Vague enough to avoid liability, specific enough to paint me as a controlling tyrant. The comments were full of support from people who didn't know the truth. "You deserve better. Stay strong, girl. Men like that never change." I didn't respond, didn't comment, didn't defend myself, because the truth was coming, and when it did, every one of those people would see exactly who they'd been defending. That night, Brandon called again. "Dad, have you seen Mom's Facebook?" "I have. It's bad. People are believing her." "Let them," I said. "For now." "But Dad." "Brandon, trust me. The truth always comes out. And when it does, she won't be able to spin it." There was a pause. Then Brandon said, "Jack sent me the offshore account information. 200 grand, Dad. She stole 200 grand from you." "I know. How are you so calm about this?" "Because being angry doesn't help," I said. "Being strategic does." The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Mr. Patterson." A man's voice, older, authoritative. "Who's this?" "Judge Philip Harrington. I think we need to have a conversation." I almost hung up, but curiosity got the better of me. "I'm listening," I said. "Your wife and I had a brief indiscretion," the judge said carefully. "It's over now. But I understand you've been collecting information, and I'd like to propose a solution that benefits both of us. A solution, I repeated. I'm prepared to make a financial contribution to ensure certain details remain private. Shall we say $50,000? Transferred quietly, no questions asked. He was trying to buy my silence. A federal judge, trying to bribe me to cover up his affair with my wife. No, I said simply. Mr. Patterson, I don't think you understand the position you're in. I have resources, connections, and I have evidence. I interrupted. Photos, timestamps, witness statements. You're married. You got grandkids. How do you think they'll react when they find out you've been sleeping with a married woman half your age? The line went quiet. Stay away from my family, I said, and pray I don't decide to make all of this public. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from satisfaction. The judge was scared. Stephanie was scrambling, and I was 3 steps ahead of both of them. The real blow came from an unexpected direction. I was at work, reviewing supplier contracts, when my assistant knocked on my office door. Mr. Patterson, there's a woman here to see you. She says it's urgent. I looked up. Who is it? She wouldn't give her name, but she seems upset. I followed my assistant to the lobby. A woman in her late 50s stood by the window, arms crossed, face tight with anger. Well-dressed, expensive jewelry, the kind of composure that comes from money and breeding. I recognized her immediately from the photos Jack had shown me. Judge Harrington's wife. Mrs. Harrington, I said carefully. She turned to face me. Mr. Patterson, I believe we have something in common. Our spouses have made fools of both of us. I glanced at my assistant. Give us the conference room. Once we were alone, Mrs. Harrington didn't waste time. My husband confessed everything last night, she said. Not because he wanted to. Because I found hotel receipts, text messages. 6 months of lies. I'm sorry, I said. Don't be. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because I want justice. And I think you do too. She pulled a folder from her purse and slid it across the table. These are my husband's financial records. I've been married to him for 34 years. I know where every dollar goes. 3 months ago, he transferred $50,000 into an account I'd never seen before. Offshore. Cayman Islands. My stomach dropped. Stephanie's account. Exactly. He's been funding her escape plan. Probably thought he was being clever, hiding in a place you'd never find. But I found it. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Because I'm divorcing him, Mrs. Harrington said flatly. And I want him to lose everything. His reputation, his money, his precious legacy. You have evidence of his affair. I have evidence of financial impropriety. Together, we can bury him. I stared at her. This woman, scorned and betrayed just like me, wasn't looking for reconciliation or forgiveness. She was looking for war. What do you want from me? I asked. I want you to file a civil suit against him for alienation of affection. It's still legal in North Carolina. You have proof. It'll destroy him in court and in public opinion. And you. I'll make sure every legal colleague, every country club member, every person in our social circle knows exactly what he did. He wanted to play games. Fine. Let's play. After Mrs. Harrington left, I sat in the conference room for a long time. Alienation of affection. It was an old law, rarely used, but still on the books. If I filed, it would become public record. Judge Harrington's affair would be front-page news. But it would also mean dragging my own humiliation into the spotlight. I called my attorney. Do it, I said. File the suit. Are you sure? She asked. This is going to get ugly, Russell. It's already ugly. Let's make sure everyone sees it. That evening, Brandon called. Dad, Mom's been trying to reach you. She says she needs to talk. I'm sure she does, I said. She sounded desperate. Said something about making a mistake, wanting to fix things. She doesn't want to fix things, I said. She wants to stop what's coming. What's coming? The truth, I said. All of it. 2 days later, the lawsuit was filed. By that afternoon, it had been picked up by the local news. Retired federal judge named in alienation of affection lawsuit. The story spread fast. Social media erupted. Stephanie's carefully crafted victim narrative crumbled in hours. The comments on her Facebook posts changed tone overnight. Wait, you cheated with a judge. This is the guy you left your husband for? Girl, what were you thinking? So, you were lying about everything. She deleted her posts. Then she deleted her entire account. Jack called that evening. Stephanie just checked into a hotel under her mother's name. She's hiding. Let her hide, I said. Judge Harrington's law firm dropped him this morning, and the state bar just opened a formal investigation. Good. You did it, Russell. You won. But it didn't feel like winning. It felt like watching a building collapse, knowing I'd lit the match, but wishing I'd never had to. I should have known Stephanie wouldn't go down quietly. The first hint came from Brandon, who called me on a Tuesday afternoon, sounding confused and worried. Dad, I just got off the phone with Mom, he said. She told me something, and I don't know if I should believe her. My stomach tightened. What did she say? She says she has breast cancer. Stage 2. That's why she's been acting erratic, why she made bad decisions. She says the stress of the diagnosis made her do things she wouldn't normally do. I closed my eyes. Of course. The ultimate sympathy card. Brandon, did she show you any medical records? Test results? Anything? No. She just told me. She was crying, Dad. It sounded real. I need you to trust me on this, I said. Don't spread this around. Don't tell anyone. Let me verify it first. After I hung up, I called Jack Monroe. I need you to pull medical records, I said. Stephanie's claiming she has cancer. Jesus, Jack muttered. That's low, even for her. Can you get the records? Legally? No, but I can verify through other means. Give me a day. 24 hours later, Jack called back. She's lying, he said flatly. I checked with her primary care physician's office. No cancer diagnosis. No oncology referrals. Nothing. She had a routine mammogram 8 months ago. Clean results. Can you get that in writing? Already done. Send it to your attorney. If she's using a fake cancer diagnosis to gain sympathy in court, that's fraud. Your lawyer can subpoena the actual medical records. I forwarded everything to Brandon with a simple message. She's lying. Here's the proof. His response came an hour later. I can't believe her. This is sick. But the damage was already done. Stephanie had been calling everyone. Her sister Angela, old friends from church, even some of my colleagues. By the end of the week, half of Charlotte thought she was battling cancer, while her cruel husband dragged her through a divorce. The Facebook post started up again, this time from her friends. Praying for Stephanie during this difficult time. Cancer and a divorce. Stay strong, girl. Can't believe her husband is doing this while she's fighting for her life. I wanted to scream. To post the medical records publicly. To expose her lie for everyone to see. But my attorney advised against it. Let her dig the hole deeper, she said. When we present evidence in court that she fabricated a cancer diagnosis, the judge is going to throw the book at her. Then something unexpected happened. A woman I'd never met reached out through LinkedIn. Her name was Patricia Crowley, and her message was brief. Mr. Patterson, I'm a breast cancer survivor. I heard about your wife's diagnosis through mutual friends. I'd like to offer support and connect her with my support group. Could you pass along my contact information? I stared at that message for a long time. This woman, a real cancer survivor, was reaching out to help someone who was lying about having the same disease she'd actually fought. It made my blood boil. I responded carefully. Ms. Crowley, I appreciate your kindness. However, I have reason to believe my wife's diagnosis may not be accurate. I'd advise caution before getting involved. She wrote back within minutes. Are you saying she's lying about having cancer? I'm saying her medical records don't support her claims. There was a long pause. Then, that's despicable. I lost 2 friends to breast cancer. Using it as a lie is unforgivable. Patricia Crowley did something I hadn't expected. She posted publicly about her experience as a cancer survivor and how harmful it was when people faked diagnoses for sympathy. She didn't name Stephanie directly, but everyone in their mutual friend circle knew exactly who she was talking about. The tide started to turn. People began asking questions, asking for proof, asking why Stephanie hadn't mentioned doctors, treatments, or any specifics. Stephanie's response was to double down. She shaved her head. Brandon sent me a photo. Stephanie, bald, looking gaunt and fragile, posted with the caption, "Starting this journey. Scared but fighting." She shaved her head. Dad, Brandon said when he called. Why would she do that if she was lying? Because she's committed to the lie, I said. She knows we have proof she's lying, so she's trying to make the lie look more believable. That's insane. That's desperation. My attorney filed a motion to compel medical records. The judge granted it immediately. Stephanie's lawyer tried to fight it, claiming privacy concerns, but the judge wasn't having it. If your client is claiming medical hardship as a factor in this divorce, then medical records are relevant, the judge said. You have 1 week to produce them. 1 week later, Stephanie's attorney withdrew from the case. No explanation, just a formal notice of withdrawal, which meant Stephanie had either admitted the lie to him, or he'd discovered it himself and refused to continue representing her. The medical records came through 3 days after that. Clean mammogram. No cancer. No treatments. Nothing. The judge scheduled an emergency hearing. I sat in that courtroom and watched Stephanie try to explain herself. She wore a scarf over her shaved head, playing the part even then. I was told by a holistic practitioner that I had abnormal cells, she said, voice trembling. I thought it was cancer. I was scared. A holistic practitioner, the judge repeated, voice flat. Not an oncologist. Not a medical doctor. I panicked. I made a mistake. The judge looked at her like she was something he'd scraped off his shoe. Ms. Patterson, lying about a cancer diagnosis to gain sympathy in a legal proceeding is fraud. I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office. Bailiff, clear the courtroom. As I walked out, I saw Stephanie sitting there alone, head in her hands. No attorney. No friends. No one left who believed her. Brandon was waiting for me outside. Is it over? He asked. Not yet, I said. But we're close. The call came at 3 in the morning. My mother's name lit up my phone screen, and my heart immediately dropped. Mom never called this late unless something was wrong. Mom? What's going on? Her voice was shaking. Russell, someone was here. At my house. They were trying to get me to sign papers. I sat up in bed, fully awake now. What papers? Who was there? I don't know. A woman. She said she was from your bank, that there was a problem with your accounts, and I needed a sign to authorize a transfer. But Russell, I got confused. The papers didn't look right. My mother was 74 years old. 2 years ago, she'd been diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. Most days she was fine, sharp even. But sometimes she got confused, especially when stressed. Mom, did you sign anything? No. I called Mrs. Henderson next door. She came over and told the woman to leave. But Russell, I'm scared. Why would someone come here? I'll be right there, I said. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone. I was at my mother's house in 20 minutes. Mrs. Henderson, our neighbor, was still there, sitting with Mom in the living room. She showed up around midnight, Mrs. Henderson said. Claimed she was from First National Bank. Had a folder, official-looking papers. But when I asked for identification, she got nervous and left. Did you get a description? Blonde, early 40s, expensive clothes. Drove a silver sedan. I felt my jaw tighten. Stephanie. It had to be. I called Jack Monroe from my mother's kitchen. Stephanie tried to scam my mother tonight, I said. Showed up at her house. Tried to get her to sign financial documents. That's elder exploitation, Jack said. That's a felony. Did your mom sign anything? No. Her neighbor intervened. Good. File a police report immediately. And I'll pull traffic camera footage from the area. If it was Stephanie, we'll have proof. I spent the rest of the night with my mother, making sure she was okay, explaining what was happening. She kept apologizing, saying she should have known better. Mom, you did everything right, I said. You didn't sign anything. You called for help. You protected yourself. But why would Stephanie do this to me? Mom asked. I always treated her like a daughter. Because she's desperate, I said. And desperate people do terrible things. By morning, Jack had pulled the footage. Clear image of Stephanie's car parked outside my mother's house at 11:47 p.m. Clear image of Stephanie walking up to the door with a folder. The police took my report seriously. They'd been watching Stephanie since the cancer lie came to light, and this was the final straw. They issued a warrant for her arrest on charges of attempted elder exploitation and fraud. Stephanie was arrested 2 days later at the Best Western where she'd been staying. Brandon called me as soon as he heard. Dad, they arrested Mom. She's in jail. I know. She called me crying. Said you set her up, that you're trying to destroy her. Brandon, she tried to trick your grandmother into signing away my assets. Grandma has Alzheimer's. That's not me destroying her. That's her destroying herself. There was a long silence. Then Brandon said, I'm done, Dad. I'm done defending her. I'm done making excuses. I know this is hard. I said, it's not hard. It's clear. She's not the person I thought she was. Maybe she never was. Stephanie made bail the next day. $50,000, posted by Judge Harrington, which told me he was still in her life somehow, still trying to protect his investment. But the damage was done. The cancer lie, the elder exploitation attempt, the offshore accounts. Everything was piling up. Her attorney had quit. Her friends had abandoned her. Even her sister, Angela, wasn't returning her calls anymore. The final divorce hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. My attorney was confident. She's got nothing left, she said. No credibility, no defense, no support. The judge is going to rule in your favor on everything. But I knew Stephanie. She had one last card to play. I just didn't know what it was yet. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. You think you've won? You haven't. I know things about you that Brandon doesn't know. Things that will change everything. Back off or I'll tell him. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I forwarded it to Jack and my attorney with a simple note. She's threatening me now. Whatever Stephanie thought she had, whatever secret she thought she could use as leverage, I wasn't afraid. Because the truth, whatever it was, would be better than living in fear of her threats. I typed back a single word, try. The final hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in late October. I arrived at the courthouse 45 minutes early, wearing the same navy suit I'd worn to my father's funeral 3 years ago. Seemed appropriate. I was burying a marriage that had been dead for longer than I'd admitted. Brandon met me outside. He'd flown in from Boston the night before. You ready for this? He asked. As ready as I'll ever be. My attorney was already inside, organizing documents at our table. Jack Monroe sat in the gallery behind us, a quiet presence that gave me confidence. He'd done his job perfectly. Now it was time to see if justice would do the same. Stephanie arrived 15 minutes late, flanked by a new attorney she'd hired just last week. Some young guy fresh out of law school, probably the only one willing to take her case. She looked terrible. Hair grown out and patchy, uneven lengths from when she'd shaved it. Dark circles under her eyes. The expensive clothes were gone, replaced by an ill-fitting blazer that looked borrowed. She didn't look at me. Not once. Judge Patricia Delacroix entered, and we all stood. She was in her 60s, with steel-gray hair and a reputation for no-nonsense rulings. I'd done my research. She presided over 300 divorce cases and had zero tolerance for fraud or manipulation. Let's begin, Judge Delacroix said, settling into her chair. I've reviewed all submitted materials. Ms. Patterson, your conduct throughout these proceedings has been, frankly, appalling. Stephanie's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client has been under extreme duress. Sit down, the judge said. I've read about the fake cancer diagnosis, the attempted exploitation of Mr. Patterson's elderly mother, the offshore accounts funded by an extramarital relationship with a retired judge. This isn't a case of duress. This is a pattern of calculated deception. The judge turned to me. Mr. Patterson, you're awarded full ownership of the marital home, all retirement accounts, and restitution for the fraudulent credit card charges, totaling $18,000. Ms. Patterson will have 30 days to remove her remaining personal effects under supervised access. Stephanie's face crumbled. She whispered something to her attorney, who shook his head. Additionally, Judge Delacroix continued, I'm ordering Ms. Patterson to repay $200,000 taken from Mr. Patterson's savings and deposited in an offshore account. Failure to comply will result in contempt charges and possible jail time. Your Honor, Stephanie's attorney said weakly, my client doesn't have access to those funds anymore. Then she should contact Judge Harrington, who funded that account, the judge said dryly. Next, the alienation of affection lawsuit. I'm ruling in favor of Mr. Patterson. Judge Harrington is liable for damages in the amount of $150,000. I heard someone gasp in the gallery, probably one of the reporters who'd been following the case. Finally, the judge said, I'm granting Mr. Patterson's request for a restraining order. Ms. Patterson, you're not to contact Mr. Patterson, his mother, or any member of his family except through your attorney. You are not to come within 500 feet of his home or workplace. Violation will result in immediate arrest. Do you understand? Stephanie nodded, tears streaming down her face. I need to hear you say it, the judge said. I understand, Stephanie whispered. This court is adjourned. As everyone stood, Stephanie finally looked at me. Not with anger or hatred, with emptiness. Like she'd finally realized what she'd lost and what it had cost her. Brandon touched my arm. Dad, let's go. We walked out of that courthouse in a bright autumn sunshine. I took a deep breath, feeling like I'd been holding it for months. "It's really over," Brandon said. "Yeah," I said. "It is." That evening, Jack Monroe called with one final update. Judge Harrington settled the lawsuit, Jack said, paid the full 150 grand. His law firm forced him into early retirement. His wife took him for everything in their divorce. Last I heard, he's selling his house and moving to Florida. And Stephanie checked into a motel in Gastonia. Her mother's helping her, but from what I gather, that relationship is pretty strained too. "Thanks for everything, Jack. You took care of yourself," Jack said. "That's all anyone can do." 4 months later, I stood in my kitchen making coffee on a Saturday morning. The house felt different now. Lighter. I'd repainted the living room, replaced the furniture Stephanie had picked out, hung new photos. Brandon had helped over Christmas break, turning her old office into a home gym. My mother was doing better. The attempted exploitation had been scary, but it had also prompted me to get her more support. A daily aid, better medication management, weekly visits for me instead of monthly. She was thriving. Brandon had started dating someone, a graduate student he'd met at MIT. He called every Sunday, sometimes just to talk about nothing. Our relationship had strengthened through the fire. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it to find Patricia Crowley, the breast cancer survivor who'd called out Stephanie's lie, standing on my porch with a casserole dish. "Mr. Patterson, I hope I'm not intruding," she said. "I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd drop this off. You helped my sister's son with a job referral last month, and I want to say thank you." "You didn't have to do that," I said, taking the dish. "I wanted to, and I want to tell you something. What you went through, standing up for the truth, even when it was hard, that took courage. A lot of people would have just given up." "I didn't have much choice," I said. "We always have a choice," Patricia said. "You chose dignity. That matters." After she left, I thought about that word. Dignity. Through everything, Stephanie had tried to strip that away from me. The lies, the manipulation, the public humiliation. But I'd held on to it. Not by attacking her, not by stooping to her level, but by simply standing firm in the truth. My phone buzzed. A text from Angela, Stephanie's sister. "Russell, I know we haven't talked since everything happened. I just wanted you to know that Stephanie's getting help. Therapy. She's starting to understand what she did. I'm not asking you to forgive her. I just thought you should know she's trying to be better." I read it twice, then typed back. "Thank you for telling me. I hope she finds peace." And I meant it. Not because I'd forgiven her. Not because what she'd done was okay. But because carrying anger was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I'd spent enough time in that darkness. That afternoon, I drove out to the lake where my father used to take me fishing. Sat on the dock, watched the water, let myself feel the weight of the past year finally lift. My phone rang. "Brandon." "Hey, Dad. Just checking in. You doing okay?" "Yeah, son. I'm good." "Good. Hey, Rachel and I are thinking of coming down for spring break. She wants to meet you." "I'd like that." After we hung up, I sat there a while longer. The sun was setting, painting the water gold and orange. I thought about the man I'd been a year ago. The one who'd gotten that text message in the garage. The one who'd been blindsided, but not broken. I'd lost a wife, but I'd gained something more valuable. Self-respect, clarity, the knowledge that I could face the worst and come out the other side. 19 years of marriage gone. But ahead of me, decades of life lived on my own terms. No lies, no manipulation, no wondering if the person sleeping next to me was plotting my destruction. I'd rebuilt my life from the foundation up. And this time, I'd built it right. The water lapped against the dock. A bird called somewhere in the trees. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt something I'd almost forgotten. Peace. Real, honest, hard-earned peace.